Hey YouTube, what's up? It's CS back here with another installment, and here is my video for my 2011 MMA awards. So yeah folks, I'm not sure if you've heard, but come Wednesday, November 30th, 2011 are the 2011 MMA awards hosted by Chael Sonnen. Yeah, that should be fun. Who knows? We'll see. But yeah, I like how they're having this award show stuff. It's exciting in my opinion, so I really can't wait to see who wins what. I'll tell you who I think should win each award, plus I'll add some awards of my own in this shit. So let's take a look at what I got. Alrighty folks, now let's get to some awards now, shall we? I'm actually going to start with Promotion of the Year. I'm going to give this one to the UFC. I think it's no-brainer. They have such a monopoly on the world of MMA right now in terms of talent, and because of that, they're able to consistently put out the best cards. So, you know, no one else comes close. You know, we have Bellator, who puts out consistent cards, and for the most part they're really exciting. But you know, you take a look at the best Bellator card compared to the best UFC card, and I don't think there's any comparison. So I gotta go with the UFC for Promotion of the Year. Alrighty folks, speaking of the best cards, my next award is for Card of the Year. I'm actually going to give this one to UFC 139, Shogun versus Henderson. I thought it had a solid amount of finishes, flashy ones like, you know, a guillotine from Uriah Faber and a Durst choke from Chris Weidman. We saw some brutal knockouts on the part of Ryan Bader and Michael McDonald, and of course my boy Vanderlei Silva. But it's primarily going to be remembered for that memorable main event between Dan Henderson and Mauricio Shogun Rua. That was definitely a brawl for the ages, and there was already, you know, a solid night of fights, and it would have been a Card of the Year candidate if that main event was just alright, but it just pushed all the other main events, you know, aside and just said, hey, this card is going to be Card of the Year, and this is going to be potential Fight of the Year, because those guys threw down. You know, we saw a lot of heart and determination from each side. Both guys got beat up. You know, it was something special. So in my opinion, Card of the Year, UFC 139, Shogun versus Henderson. Alrighty folks, the next award is for Fight of the Year. There's a bunch of candidates for this one. It's going to be hard for me to give out an award, but I think I got something. Taking a look at who would be my nominees, you have Diaz versus Daly in that round 1 thriller. You have both Edgar versus Maynard 2 and 3. And of course you had that 139 main event between Shogun and Dan Henderson, which I already mentioned. But I'm actually going to go with the Bellator 58 main event between Michael Chandler and Eddie Alvarez that happened that same night. Definitely got overshadowed, and if you haven't seen that fight, go check it out. It was insane. You know, the reason I'm giving this award to that fight is because I thought it was the most complete out of all the ones I mentioned. We saw solid striking from both guys, solid wrestling, solid counter wrestling, and of course we had a nice, you know, submission finish from Michael Chandler in round 4. Plus these guys did not get tired, so I give both those guys credit for it. You know, they went high octane for a little bit over than 3 rounds. So you know what, in my opinion, because of all that, it deserves Fight of the Year. So again, Fight of the Year, Bellator 58 main event, Michael Chandler versus Eddie Alvarez. Of course, Michael Chandler, new champion. Alrighty folks, let's move on to the next award, and it is for Comeback of the Year. This one goes to Cheick Kongo on his victory over Pat Barry at UFC Live, Kongo versus Barry. Guys, Pat Barry almost had him beat, you know, had him beat twice just by getting within Cheick Kongo's reach and being able to drop him with a couple punches. I think he dropped him again after he almost finished him. But Cheick Kongo was able to weather that storm, and he threw a hook himself, and it hit Pat Barry. Pat Barry went down like a sack of bricks. That was it. So props to Cheick Kongo for doing his thing. You know, he ended up finishing Pat Barry. That was crazy, just because everyone thought Pat Barry had him beat, and he didn't. So nice win for Cheick Kongo, and I think he's really deserving of this Comeback of the Year. I'm trying to think of anyone else, but to me that sticks out in my mind. So Cheick Kongo, Comeback of the Year. Alrighty folks, let's move on to my next award. It's for Knockout of the Year. I'm actually going to give this to Lyoto Machida for his victory over Randy Couture at UFC 129, St-Pierre versus Shields. Of course, that was a flying front kick, KO, flashy win from Lyoto Machida. I thought he'd finish Randy, but I didn't think it would be like that. It was that flashy. He actually karate kicked his head off into retirement. I gotta give Lyoto some love and respect for that, so props to him. He has my award for Knockout of the Year. Of course, before that, we saw that Anderson Silva KO kick against Vitor Belfort, that front kick. That was like the 0.5 version of this shit, you know what I'm saying? So props to Lyoto for actually doing a flying front kick and winning with it. So yeah, that's my Knockout of the Year. Alrighty, folks, let's move on. Let's take a look at submission of the year. I'm going to give this to Chen Sung-jung for his twister over Leonard Garcia in their second fight from UFC Fight Night, Nogueira versus Davis. I could have given this to Vinicius Magalhães in his Mountain Gogoplata victory over Viktor Nemkov. But I'm going to go with Chen Sung-jung. I think his victory is just as flashy. And considering the circumstances, you know, he beat Leonard Garcia decisively in this fight where I thought he won the first time. And to beat him with 1 second left to go, I thought was pretty hilarious. But I didn't think he had that kind of submission game on him. Like, apparently he just learned it by watching Eddie Bravo videos, so I thought that was pretty sick. But yeah, I don't know. I guess it's favoritism why I'm giving Leonard Garcia this award. If you want to give it to Magalhães, that's fine as well. I'm sure there's a lot of other submissions I'm missing, but you know, I really enjoyed that one just because, you know, I thought it was really gratifying for my boy Korean Zombie. So yeah, submission of the year, Korean Zombie Twister. Alright folks, the next award is for Robbery of the Year. For me, it's a toss-up between Darren Elkins over Michihiro Migawa and Nick Ring over Ricky Fukuda. I think either or works here, but I'm going to say it's a tie between those guys. So, yay, you know, Nick Ring and Darren Elkins. You won a negative award. Yeah. But guys, you know, if you watch a Nick Ring bout against Ricky Fukuda, you know, basically if you thought Tim Boach beat Nick Ring, you would have thought Ricky Fukuda beat Nick Ring. And as for Darren Elkins over Michihiro Omigawa got the better of the striking and overall grappling, you know, in round 2 and 3. I thought that was horrible. You know, round 3 was a clear-cut win for Michihiro Omigawa, and I thought he edged out round 2. Not even edged, I thought that was decisive as well. I thought that was the definition of a 29-28 fight, but clearly the judges didn't see it that way. And yeah, there is still this racial bias against Asians in the MMA, and it's kind of sad. So there you go, guys, robberies of the year. Alright folks, let's move on. Let's take a look at my upset of the year. I'm going to give this to Tito Ortiz. I think it's kind of obvious. He had that upset victory over Ryan Bader at UFC 132. Yeah, he finished him with a round 1 guillotine, but before it got to the ground, he outstruck him. You know, he cracked him on the feet with a punch. Bader dropped. You know, he tried to recover by going for a takedown. Tito Ortiz sunk in that guillotine, beat him decisively in that round 1. So props to Tito Ortiz. You know, I know what that win meant for him. To beat a top 10 opponent after, you know, going winless in 5 years, that's huge. And he was also a plus 400 underdog, so gotta give it up to Tito Ortiz. You know, the circumstances were there, and Ryan Bader's a tough opponent, upset of the year. I don't think I need to say more. Alrighty folks, let's move on to Female Fighter of the Year. I'm going to give this award to Ronda Rousey. For the record, guys, watching her fight is what I wish Karo Parisian was able to do to guys on a regular basis back in the day. Like, I think her judo style is sick. You know, it's just, you know, beautiful to watch when executed perfectly. I know she's not facing the most impressive competition, so she's basically ragdolling people and putting people in armbar. She has 4 armbar victories in 2011. She's undefeated. And in all those armbar victories combined, she's beat people in 3 minutes. I think less than that. So, yeah, I've got to give the devil her due, you know. To beat people that decisively with the same goddamn move. People know it's coming, but they still can't stop her. So, you know, I got to give it up to Ronda Rousey. I'd really like to see that fight against Miesha Tate. You know, I think that would be pretty exciting. I could give this award to Miesha Tate, actually, but she's only fought once, you know what I'm saying? So, I've got to give it to Ronda Rousey. She stays active, and she keeps beating people impressively when they know it's coming. So, Female Fighter of the Year, Ronda Rousey. Alright folks, the next award is for Comeback Fighter of the Year. Now you can easily give this to Antonio Rodrigo Nogueira or Tito Ortiz, but I'm going to be nice and give it to someone else who hasn't won anything since the World Grand Prix in K1 back in the day, and that's Mark Hunt. And I actually think he's deserving of it. Of course, he was on that 4-year winless streak, but in 2011 he had that highlight reel knockout against Chris Tucker, and then he had that, you know, boring decision win over Ben Rothwell where he out-wrestled a wrestler and they both gassed. You know, that was ugly. But nevertheless, he's 2-0 in 2011 after, you know, going 4 years without a win. So I'll give it up to Mark Hunt, Comeback Fighter of the Year. Alrighty, folks, let's move on to Breakthrough Fighter of the Year, shall we? In my opinion, it goes to Daniel Cormier. Like, I was leaning towards Phil Davis at one point, then I thought about it. What Daniel Cormier did, upsetting Antonio Silva, was huge. And now he's in the Grand Prix final against Josh Barnett. You know, he wasn't even in the tournament to begin with in the first place. And even if he was in the tournament, we would have been like, there's no way this guy's a favorite. and then he made the guy who took out Fedor look silly. So I got to give it up to Daniel Cormier. He's a well-rounded fighter in my opinion. You know, he's one of the best wrestlers in the heavyweight division for sure. He has solid boxing skills. He was able to get within the reach of Antonio Silva, and he knocked him out. You know, his speed, his power, you know, it was enough to do it. So good for Daniel Cormier. He's a little bit undersized for that heavyweight division, but still I think he's too skilled for anyone else outside of the UFC, even Josh Barnett. Josh Barnett has to get to the ground to win, and as long as that thing's standing, it's Daniel Cormier's fight to lose. So I really favor Daniel Cormier in that fight, and I'm really impressed out of what I've seen of him over the past year. So over this year, so I got to give it to Daniel Cormier for Breakthrough Fighter of the Year. Alrighty folks, let's move on to my last award of the night, and it is for Fighter of the Year. In my opinion, there's two clear candidates for this award. One is the UFC middleweight champion Anderson Silva. The other, the UFC light heavyweight champion Jon Jones. Guys, the award is not who is the best fighter, you know, period. That's a separate argument. It's for who had a better year. And no question about it, Jon Jones had a better year, I think. You know, let me think. Vitor Belfort, Yushin Okami, or Ryan Bader, Mauricio Shogun Rua, and Rampage Jackson. I kind of got to go with this one, you know what I'm saying? Jon Jones did his thing in 2011, beat 3 top 10 opponents, you know, relatively with ease. You know, he didn't drop a single round throughout those fights. He finished all of them. You know, he made it look easy. Ryan Bader, that was a gimme fight. We knew he was winning that. Shogun Rua, on the other hand, people were surprised that he was a favorite in that fight, and a lot of people were still picking Shogun. And then Jon Jones proved why he should have been a favorite in that fight. In the first place, he clowned Shogun in every facet of MMA. And I know Shogun was like not 100% for that fight. But watching that, I can't even picture a healthy Shogun being effective against Jon Jones. You know, Jon Jones is just that guy who out-wrestles wrestlers and outstrikes strikers. He's that good. And then if you thought that Shogun Rua fight was a fluke, because of Shogun's condition, of course, he proved that he can be effective against a top 5 healthy opponent in Rampage Jackson, and he basically clowned Rampage as well. Rampage landed nothing of significance throughout that fight, and he was dropping 10-9s up until he got finished. So props to Jon Jones for you know, finishing Rampage Jackson in his last title defense, and on a solid 2011, I think he had a better year than Anderson Silva, so that's why he's getting an award for 2011 Fighter of the Year. Well, alright folks, there it is. That about does it for my 2011 World MMA Awards. I hope you guys enjoyed my show. If you did, please leave me a thumbs up. And also tell me what you thought of my awards overall in the comment section below. And I also want to know what your awards would have been, so please tell me as well. And yeah, subscribe if you haven't already. And that's about it. I know I did omit some awards because I just didn't feel like talking about them. But there were some that they didn't have that I felt like talking about, so I added some. So, yeah, that about does it, guys. So, thank you again for all the support. Much love, and take care.